After giving advice to current and intending PhD students, Tolu was asked to make a video to further explain the advice he gave to current and intending PhD students. With his presentation today entitled, My PhD Story, please welcome our president, Tolu Famuyiwa.
Mr. Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters and guests, what do you value the most? For me, I value improvement, growth. There's so many ways to achieve this. One of the ways is to be financially free. Financial freedom means to be very free from poverty. And in case you're trying to think about what poverty means, I can explain to you. A poor person is always having excess of so many things, except, of course, money. A poor person has so much of energy, time, and sometimes excess spermatozoa and eggs. Coming from a developing country whereby the reason why we have overpopulation is because people don't go to school. Overpopulation is as a result of having excess time to engage in reproductive activities. In order for me not to be a problem to the world, in my own case, I desire to further my education. The answer to the question for me was to go for higher education. And that's why I'm taking through, I'm going to take you through my PhD journey today. I lived over 30 years of my year in Nigeria. I came into Nigeria to further my education, specifically to go through my PhD. I started my PhD. The title of my PhD was Combining Two Drugs Inside Nanoparticles to Treat Prostate Cancer Without Drug Resistance. I started that. At the beginning of my program, of course, I had to teach. As a graduate student, I walked into the class and I told my student, my name is again Toluleke Famuyiwa. For some reason, my student thought my first name was again. That was very strange to me. I decided, well, I think this class is going to be a long class. And when I thought about it, I saw that the names that people bear here is not the same as the name I was used to anyways. People bear, you have people with stones as their first name, dicks, plates, spoons, and things like that. So maybe that was what was going on. I started my class. During the class, I mentioned the word pressure. But instead, because of my accent, I called the word pressure. And one of my students said, Professor, you're putting us under pressure. And all the class laughed. That was the first cultural shock that I experienced when I first came to America. Coming from a country like Nigeria, whereby you cannot make fun of a professor in the presence of the professor. What is going to happen is that the professor is going to walk you out of the room very nicely without you having anything to do about that. And most times, students like that will probably not come to the class again. And if they don't come to class, guess what? They're not going to have a good grade at the end of the class, so to say. But here in America, I was smart enough to know that I can't do that because that would not fly. I said, well, guys, all right. since you guys are under prayer, I'm going to remove all the extra credit and the makeup exams that I was planning for this class, because I don't want to put you guys under pressure. Now I pronounce the word very well. You can see the blank faces, they're very annoyed, squeeze their face and things like that. I was like, that is good for now. And I kept going through my program, the PhD. I was doing my best to adjust to the culture. Oftentimes I'll see people approach me and tell me, you're adjusting well to United States very well. I couldn't understand what that meant. Initially, I thought it was a compliment, but I later discovered that it was because I was going fat, so to say. Adjusting well to then mean that I'm going bigger. I didn't know that was not a compliment. One of the cultural shock that I also experienced when I was in my program was the fact that during weekends, we usually just chill, relax, go out with friends, go to parties and enjoy ourselves in Nigeria. During my PhD program, I couldn't get to do all that. I had to do research during weekends, even to Sundays sometimes was very difficult, which was something that was not really common. I started going through all these cultural changes and moving towards 2020. Yeah, 2020 was the most unexpected year of my life in the United States. We had the pandemic hit so hard. I can describe year 2020 as the X that keeps showing up at your doorstep, even when you're married to somebody else. 2020, during the pandemic, we all had to adjust. One of the things that we don't talk about really is the fact that we are so used to wearing masks now. Wearing masks, for me, is now feeling like wearing socks. To the extent that if I go out and I don't wear a mask, it feels that I'm actually going out with shoes without wearing my socks. 2020, the pandemic, it's so hard, but I can tell you for sure that I still have a couple of friends and family who still think COVID-19 is just like a common cold, really. That's what they tell me. And they say the word COVID-19 as if it's the name of their favorite show on TV. At the end of 2020, moving to 2021, I was getting to the end of my program as a PhD student. Of course, I finished and I posted my graduation on my social media. To my surprise, somebody said, "Happy birthday." I couldn't fathom why graduation can actually translate to happy birthday. Then I later found out that a couple of people don't really read posts like that. They just respond based on their impulse. And I'm pretty sure that the criteria that I had for connecting on social media is not the inability to speak English. I finished the PhD. Now it's time to look for a job. The first experience I had with looking for a job was with the scammers, job scammers. I discovered that there's so many job scammers around here. And I think job scammers actually think it's something that is very fun to look for a job. Even the so-called employers will tell you that this is their number, this is their phone number. In case you want to talk about how it feels to be rejected, let us know. I went through all that, and during that, I had to talk to one of my students who was also looking for a job. I said, well, This is the situation we have to go through. I'm suggesting that you actually start a food business, because guess what? Everybody, one time we're going to have to eat anyway. And the only reason you're not going to be making money when you're into food business is if you're leaving money on the table, or you're just throwing money away because of your lack of knowledge. To my surprise, he asked me, can I do both? I was surprised. Did you not hear what I said? I said, well, maybe that's why you're out of job in the first place. You need to get your understanding up. And I said, well, maybe you should just consider selling likes, shares, and comments on Facebook or any other social media to make some money. Now, my lessons from a PhD. During my PhD, I learned that the academic society is like a selfish teenager that is slowly evolving, but it's evolving at a rate that is too slow and is very annoying. So it takes a lot of patience to be able to understand how financial support or other support can come. Another thing that I also learned during my PhD was that most research that are valuable and will always have good value in the future are always linked to either agriculture or information technology. Or if you can even link both together, that's the best. Because think about it. The best way you can get a couple of people to be happy is to give them the food that they like and give them social network. Social network, in which case they can communicate with their friends or even communicate with other people from other countries. Now my advice to the intending PhDs. The first advice is to be persistent and consistent. Don't be like one of my friends who won for the first time and said he was tired of winning. Don't also be like other people who are into politics who will win election for the first time and say that they are tired of winning elections. The second advice is to ensure that you associate yourself with very wise people. The thing about wasting of time is that people that are addicted to wasting of time, when they are bored with wasting their time, guess what? They're going to go after you to waste your time, because that's the way it works. Make sure you're very real, because people know who you really are. If you drop the microphone and it doesn't make any sound, that means you're sharp, my friend. Don't try to walk like a tall person. People know the difference. Also ensure that you connect with people before you talk about science. If you don't know, most people don't get turned on with science. But I do know people who get turned on with dairy talk. Be an open book. Make sure that you walk through life in a way that people can read you like a book. Because people who don't like you might spread false information about you. But if people can read you like a book already, then it wouldn't matter what anybody is saying at that point. Ensure that you use the appropriate social media. The first time I made a post on Instagram about my research, I discovered that a lot of my followers had prostate cancer and they need money for treatment. Make sure that you are always the person that is helping people out, mentoring others, because the real fulfillment and happiness comes from getting ahead in a way that is helping other people to get ahead. Ensure that you try new things, make sure that you go after those challenging situations as if you know that you can achieve them. Even if something feels that you cannot achieve it, still go ahead and try to achieve it, because you never know, you might just discover something new about yourself that will change your life forever. I'm sure you're going to be good in your PhD. You'll make good success. And when you graduate in flying colors, please come back and tell us how you achieve your success.